So welcome, everybody, to the second hour of Mind Shifters Radio. Today is Thursday, December the 2nd, 2021, and our calling number is 563-999-3581, and press 1, and that puts you into queue to talk to us. I'm getting ready to cough, excuse me. And we'd love to hear from you because that makes this your show. We'd love to hear your comments, your questions, disagreements, whatever. We're here to support you in your process. So let us know what you think. So I'm waiting on Michael to get dialed in. I'll invite you to go to our website, which is www.whyagain.org, and click the Start Here button, or just rummage around, find all kinds of things. I will let you know that the Google accepted the changes to the app, and then we found one other thing. We have added a little button on every screen that you can click and ask a question. So if you're working on any of the worksheets in the app, you can, if a question pops up in your mind, you can click that button and ask a question right then. Well, we found on the Dragon Klingon game that it actually is kind of covering up. If you scroll all the way to the bottom of a certain page, then the Ask a Question button is actually on top of your next button. And so that could be confusing. So I've asked them to move it in the Dragon Klingon game to the top of the screen. So there'll be one more change going through on that one. We're working on the iOS for the Apple, for the iPhone. And so that'll probably take a couple more days. But by the first of the week, hopefully we'll have both of those approved and in the Play Store or the Apple Store. And all you should have to do is click Update, and you'll have the new version of everything. But you can go out right now and you can see some of the changes in the Android version because it has been approved and it's out there. And like I said, we've just got a couple more changes that'll be coming through on that in the next day or two. And every time you make a change, even if it's something little, you have to resubmit to Google again for them to approve, or submit to Apple for them to approve. So going through the process, but hopefully we'll have all that done and put it to use. And if you run across something, then drop me a line at jeanie@whyagain.org. Let me know what is or isn't working or what you think, and we'll see what we can do about making a change again. Welcome, Michael. I was just telling them that while Google has now approved the changes to the app, so you can do an update in the Google Play Store and get the newest app, do an update. But we did catch one more thing. Yeah, there's one more thing that needs to be changed, and that's on the Dragon Klingon game. The question button overlays the next button, so I think we're moving it in just your Darth Vader breathing on them. We have to move that button to the top of the Dragon Klingon screens because it lays right on top of the next button, and people won't know, they'll be trying to click next and it'll ask a question. So we're going to have to move it on that one. But anyway, so there'll be one more change going through on that, and we're still working on the Apple version. So welcome, Michael.
Awesome. Thank you, sweetie. Your work on that is fabulous, phenomenal. The fact that we have that upgrade, taking it to the next level, is just amazing. The technology, it is pretty cool, pretty sweet. And so thank you, everybody, for joining us. And yes, we'll breathe together. Reminder, the breath is life. That's where it comes from. And you watch a person who's in trauma and pain, and the first thing you do is lock down the breath. How many remember hearing stories about when they were kids? I hear a lot of adults say, yeah, my mom used to tell me how I would just hold my breath until I almost passed out, turned blue. And that means, don't make me look at my life. I don't want to deal with this. That's how we hold back. That's how we lock out the flow of life through our structure, and life feels. So if we can shut down life, then we don't feel. Dead man doesn't feel anything. Why? Because there's no life flowing through it. Life is feeling. And when we shut down breath, we shut down life, we shut down feeling. So one of the number one things to do is restore that. So yes, you'll hear me breathing often. I remember several years ago we were down visiting. You might remember quite often on the show we talked with Michael Coughlin, and Jeanie and I were down there, and there was an issue that came up between us, and it brought some stuff up for me. And Michael marveled that when we completed that process, he came in the house and found me in the room doing a still point session. I'm like, gee, you actually do this stuff, Michael. It's like, yeah, I do my best, not always perfectly, but the breath is such a key for cleaning out whatever's been locked down and moving out generations and generations of lockdown is just so important to actually being alive. And if you go back and listen to Yeshua 2,000 years ago, you'll notice, excuse me, I had just taken a drink of water and I took something down the wrong road. But you notice you go back to Yeshua, he doesn't say, I came to bring you religion. I came to bring you dogma. I came to bring you a doctrine. He doesn't even say, I came to tell you about the Creator. He says, I come to bring you life, and life more abundantly. So everywhere you look through the app, every tool is about enhancing life, enhancing the flow of love through your cellular structure. And joining in a community whose life's work is about enhancing the flow of life through our structure. Life is love flowing through a cell. And we were told we're made in the image and likeness of the Creator. Doesn't mean your body looks like the Creator's body or the Creator. It might mean that, but there's no reason to believe that. But that we're made in the image and likeness of love. And it is that ability to open and allow that life, that love to flow through our cellular structure and refuse to engage in anything that restricts it. I simply refuse to engage in hostility or fear. And people say, well, but Michael, when that hostility or fear comes up, how can I not engage in it? Forgiveness. That's what the app's about. The app is about collapsing the perceptual constructs of the mind and getting back to the point where truth becomes key. Truth becomes what it's about, rather than winning, rage, guilt, grief, fear, dogma, doctrine, rather than any of that. It's about living, truly living as a human being and letting go of the rest. So we're delighted that you're here to be part of the process. And if we can be of any support, then please, our call-in number, if you're on one of those stations where we can't see you, if you want to have a conversation, 563-999-3581, 563-999-3581. And when you call that number, you'll be listening to the show on your phone. And then, if you push 1, that will raise a hand in the phone queue, and we will be having a conversation. And we're here to have a conversation with you and appreciate you being part of the process. So our reading for today, the book, Why Is This Happening to Me Again? We're in chapter 22, the Aramaic solution. And we yesterday had a conversation about remembering that law is not the rule of a superior. Law, there's nothing to obey in the law. Absolutely nothing to it. It's a total fraud. Law in Aramaic is simply the formula, the recipe for producing a result. If you want a result of drama and trauma, go ahead, do 120 down the interstate, and the boys in blue will come after you, and you'll get your drama and trauma, but you haven't broken a law. Those things aren't laws. They're men's regulations, trying to regulate and make things reasonable for those who tend to be unreasonable. But when we talk about law here, we're talking about how to produce a result that is reliable. And of course, you remember Yeshua when they said, what's first, what's most important? It was keep that love flowing through your cellular structure. And when love isn't flowing through the cellular structure, the behavior is going to be insane. It's going to be unlawful. It's not going to produce the result of living a human life. It's going to produce some other result. So Richard kind of gets into a little bit of resistance to some of the ideas I'm giving him. And he says, well, I've made some good decisions when I was angry, Michael. I don't know how that fits with what you're saying. Richard, each time you get angry, do you tend to make the same decisions, similar decisions? Even if the resulting behavior does not produce what you want? He answered yes. Doing the same thing repeatedly and expecting a different result is a good definition of insanity. If you make the same decisions repeatedly, even if it is a good one, choice has not entered the picture. Decisions are the automatic product of resonance and do not lead to new behaviors. So decisions, it actually comes from the word to cut off. Decide is, the same root as suicide, fratricide. It means to cut off something, to kill off something, to remove options. And if you watch, you recognize how the mind works. It works by the law of resonance. It's just a pure energy exchange, and whatever's in the mind, the body, what we call the body's mind, which technically isn't really a mind at all, but that's what we've come. It's the world's cheap copy of the mind. If I say don't think about the color of your car, what happens? If you say, well, I think about the color of my car. Are you sure that's thinking? I'd offer that's just pure resonance. There's information there. There's an energy exchange. It's no different than I hit a middle seat on a desk and I put it in front of a second middle seat tuning fork, and that second tuning fork starts to vibrate. Is the tuning fork thinking because it vibrates in response to a similar frequency that's there? No. That's just running by the law of resonance. It's the automatic decision system. So decisions in the mind are automatic, and they will replicate when the circumstances are the same. They will replicate that decision over and over and over again, which means we are cut off from choice. Decide is to cut oneself off from choice. We want to develop the spiritual faculty of choice, which is the ability to bring in through our higher faculties a new piece of information that perhaps the so-called mind has never seen before, and be restored to a mind that functions from active present love rather than a mind that functions from the past with the hostility and the fear and the rage and the guilt and the grief and the drama and the trauma. What if you eradicated all of that from your physiology? How long do you suppose your so-called body would work and be viable if you eradicated the disintegrative energies of rage and guilt and grief and pain and drama and trauma? I'll tell you what, it's designed to last for eternity. We kill ourselves by engaging in energetic patterns that do not belong. So even the situations in the past that have worked out well, if you bring the information from the past, you're replicating the past. You may get the same net result by bringing information in the present through the spiritual faculties, but it will be live and life, even though the end result is the same, because the source of the energy is live rather than just replicating the past. That's why we call the so-called body's mind the replicant mind. All it can do is replicate whatever's in it. Don't think about the color of your car, what the front door of your house look like, what's your favorite item of clothing. Notice all that information stored already in your mind, which means it is past. To those who lived from the past, Yeshua said, let the dead bury the dead, let the blind lead the blind. And if you actually want to follow me, pick up your cross. You notice he didn't say pick up my cross. You see people out there doing that thing, they're running around with a wooden cross, and that's not what he suggested. What is your cross? What is it in your automatic decision system that when resonated into activity, kicks into hostility and fear and replicates the past traumas of the generations? You listen to this in the scriptures, look to the lives of the fathers, for ours are but a shadow of theirs upon the earth. Of course, that's the fathers and the mothers. It's a sexist remark. We replicate things until we're live and bring live energy into the mind that is fresh and new and comes from truth rather than replicating the content that's in the mind. So if you make the same decision repeatedly, even if it's a good one, choice has not entered the picture. Decisions are the automatic product of resonance and do not lead to new behavior. Have you ever been enraged with someone and spontaneously rushed in to embrace and tell them how much you care for them? Not likely. That would require unusual circumstances or disciplined choice for most people. Decisions usually do not leave room for new choices or intelligent action and produce what I call an insane mind. Again, a mind functioning without the presence of love. And so the key thought on this page is, as we read earlier, is doing the same thing repeatedly and expecting a different result is a good definition of insanity. Recall earlier that I asked you when you were most intelligent. You said the only time you had made decisions and done things you regretted was when you were in a state other than love. Our behavior is only insane when the mind is in a condition of hostility, fear, or a reaction to one of those emotions. True forgiveness removes from the human system the realities that defile human intelligence, health, prosperity, and relationships. It is the key to aliveness. So here we are back to Yeshua's commitment. What's he here for? To bring you life. And the non-being mind, the mind based in hostility or fear, has all kinds of suggestions for how you can get what you want. And guess what? All of those suggestions are from dead people, their generational patterns, gone. And if we're stuck in that desert, if you look at that story about the Jews wandering in the desert, you'll notice that they were in a 35 square mile area. And, or at least if you think of it as a literal thing, if they're in this hot, sandy place, do you think these people who understood astronomy as well as they did, read their writings, they knew it long before that time in the desert, do you think they couldn't have picked on the sun and followed it and gotten out of a 35 square mile area within a matter of a very few days? They weren't lost in a hot, sandy place for 4 years, or for 40 days. 40 years. In the desert. They were lost in the unconscious. They were lost with no way of getting new input. The spiritual faculties had withered, and nothing new could come in, so all they could do was live a replicate life. And what do you have to do to get out of living a replicate life? Go read that passage in the scriptures, and what did they say had to happen to get out of the desert? They said the old generation had to die off. That didn't mean everybody in old physical bodies had to physically die. The decisions of the generations, motivated by hostility or fear, must be forgiven from your physiology in order for you to truly step into full, complete human aliveness. You've got to get out of the desert. So those generational patterns need to be faced. The things that the automatic decision system kicks in and insists that we do. How many times, anybody ever had the experience of saying, oh man, what I did, that was so terrible. You look back at it and say, oh well, I'll never do that again. And you mean it, right? And notice, you never do it again until the next time somebody gives you the look. And up comes that old hostility and fear-based perceptual construct. The restriction of life is in place and shuts down the flow of energy through the structure. That creates pain. The structure is saying physically, mentally, emotionally, ouch. And there's no capacity to tap into something new. What forgiveness does is it literally weakens those pieces of generational advice stored in the cellular structure. It weakens and removes those promptings from the mind and from the so-called body. Restoration to the presence of love is where the solution lies. You will never get restoration by forgiving someone else for the fact that some form of hostility or fear is moving in you. It just won't happen. It can't happen. Hostility or fear is quite literally death. It is the energetic, the engagement in those patterns means that the energetic pathways for love to flow through your structure have been shut down. It means there are going to be tensions in your structure that do all sorts of things, restrict blood flow, change chemistry, just, a whole myriad of things occur. And these are the things that lead to death. And so we're looking to undo, literally, the energetic patterns of death and be restored to truth. If you want to know the truth of yourself, just go back for a moment. Remember holding a newborn child. Tap into the essence of the newborn. And what would you name that essence? Pure, sweet presence of love. How much beating, how much wailing has to happen on a child physically, mentally, and emotionally to take this creature, this being that is based in pure love, and turn them into someone who can hate, who can rage, who can attack? What is it? How much assault does it take to turn a child into that? And how often does it happen? Well, take a look at the culture right now. I mean, how many people out there are talking about, right here in America, this is America, about Civil War again. Their minds who don't have access to their own human lives. And they've been taught by their generations, well, I can get what I want by forcing somebody else. I can get what I want by raging, shooting, killing, whatever. But the slightest attack on another person has never delivered joy to anyone. The most extreme attack, even if somebody got the result they wanted out of the attack, still did not have a life force that responded with joy to what was happening. Now, they may have experienced very temporarily what people call happiness. Happiness is not the goal here. Serenity and joy are the goal. Happiness comes from getting a shot of dopamine. It's been called happy powder. A lot of people who use a lot of drugs, well, the way they get the high, they want, I want to be high, I want to be high, I want to be high. The way they get the high is that the drug causes the dopamine to be burned up, and that's why then afterward there's a crash. And people are so depressed they kill themselves, or they need more of the drug to get the result because they're utilizing the drug as an anesthetic and as a stimulant and using up the resources that are there naturally to bring us into that state of happiness. Every time you fulfill a goal, you get a shot of dopamine. even, and this is where people get locked into performing negative acts, a negative goal achieved produces dopamine, produces happiness. That's part of the instrument, if you understand how it works. Happy isn't the result we want. Somebody attacks somebody else and wins, and they go, oh, I'm so happy. And they go home and they, rage at their 2-year-old. Excuse me, I thought you were happy now that you beat that other person at their game and you won. Why aren't you going home in that blissful, joyful, awesome state of wholeness, going to your child? Oh, I cherish you, sweet one. Why not? Because all you got out of achieving your lousy goal was happiness. When the mind functions where goals are sourced from being rather than from the generational patterns stored in carbon-based memory from the past, then you get true human life expressing. What did he say he was here for? Oh, yeah, that's right. I come to bring you life. Not money, not sex, not power, not even to show you how to fulfill your goals. I come to bring you life. So the person who's got a conflict going with someone who acts out of the active presence of love is guided by a new mind. Remember they talked about having a new mind? Guided by a new mind does a behavior that actually produces joy and aliveness and connectedness. And they go home to their child and having created a win-win with someone they had conflict with, and they serve up that winning, that delight, that aliveness to that child that's two, instead of turning around to abuse out of the pain that was falsely covered, or that was covered up by false joy called happiness. So we're honored and we're delighted that you're here to be part of this conversation. And we've got about 24 minutes left, 35. So if anyone has a question or a thought, it'd be awesome to interact. We're coming up to this holy day season. Hope that your Thanksgiving was sweet and awesome, and that you're really recognizing and will set aside some time through this holy day season to really, truly enhance your wholeness, your well-being, your gratitude for what, just the fact that we get to have a human life. How awesome is that? And yeah, there are lots of other radio shows. You can go hear people whine and wail about what's wrong with somebody else. But what's really important? Life. Such an awesome gift that we actually get to live a human life. Whew, how amazingly incredible is that? And so, Miss Jeanie, do we have anybody out there in the phone queue with a hand up or anything happening in the chat room?
It is all quiet. I thought of we started a new series last night. Somebody had told us to watch it, that it was good. It's actually titled The Good Witch, but the person is not a witch in it. She's just intuitive and tapped into what's going on around her, and she does all these natural things, and it's pretty good. So if you want another show to tap into, and it's all about what's going on inside.
And in the context of our conversation, it's a good example to watch how, everybody's trying to count on their minds for information, and this woman taps into being, and she knows what's going on around her at all times with no recourse to her mind. That's human life. So I hadn't thought of it in that context, sweetie. So thank you for bringing that up. But yeah, she's really truly living a human life, even though she's got some traumas going on. She's still, there's this reflection of being in her, and her higher faculties are operating, and she doesn't wait for her mind to find something out. She lives in that higher set of faculties. Remember the 5 smooth stones of David. Remember the story of David and Goliath. And Goliath is simply a symbol for the ego mind, a symbol for the past. If you listen to Yeshua, he talked about how in order for you, being, to live, you, non-being, have to die. So this self-based in hostility or fear has to be removed. And the removal process is called forgiveness. And so she doesn't wait for her mind, her senses to see something or hear something in order to know what's going on. She lives in these higher faculties. It's actually a good demonstration of exactly what living a true human life would look like. I hadn't really thought of it that way, but it really is. It's well done. It's sweet. It's cute, too. So it's on Netflix. The Good Witch. And it's interesting that the commercial world would call someone who lives in those higher faculties a witch. And then if you go back to, the witch hunts in Salem and such, in essence, the women that they were murdering, and it was mainly women, and you look at the insane conversations that are still going on in our culture and still accepted, abusing women left, right, and center. I mean, it's just insane. But basically, you go back and do some research on Salem and the witch trials and such. It was, in essence, women who had higher faculties going, women who actually were healing children. And they're like, whoa, wait a minute, this must be satanic if you're doing those things. So the very possibilities that come from living in the present, living in being, and functioning as a true human being are unacceptable. It kind of reminds me of the old crab bucket thing where, you don't have to put a lid on a crab bucket. Once you start catching crabs, you just leave it open. And once you've got 2 crabs in there, if one of those crabs starts to crawl out, the other one will grab it and drag it back in the bucket. Don't need a lid. That's very much like the Salem witch trials, where it's like, don't you go to higher faculties. We want you to stay down here with us. The world of hostility and fear. Go ahead.
There was one point in there where someone had asked her about, and she said about the abilities and things, and she said it's not a power, it's a gift.
Yeah,
and we had a hand just go up.
That was a powerful thought from her, wasn't it, in that context?
Yeah.
Yeah. Cool. Let's say hello to our caller.
It's area code 904. I believe it's Dusty. Hi.
Well, hi, aloha. Can you folks hear me? I may have to switch to my speaker.
Aloha, you're loud and clear, Dusty. Good to hear your voice.
Oh,
what's exciting
great.
in your world? How you be?
Well, I be pretty darn well, and I really I'm getting ready to ask you another question, but I like that last statement by Jeanie of that it was not a power, a gift. Wow. And what you just said about life, kind of quick thing to me. But I have a question. Monday, you showed up with a lot of joy, and I guess you and Jeanie et al. Had been doing some still point breathing, and Jeanie worked through something, and you had been working with your pineal, I believe.
Yes. Yep.
And I do a little of that. I do that every day in my own way, and I am just really curious, and I would love to know what your process or modus operandi was relative to still point breathing and your pineal. How did you work that into your pineal?
Well, I wasn't specifically working to do anything in regard to the pineal gland, but it was a spontaneous occurrence, and something that, at some point I don't even remember when, years ago, I had read about, but never experienced, and it was never anything I pursued. But as I was doing this still point session, all of a sudden, I mean, I could literally feel like my pineal gland was being milked. I could feel, literally, physiologically, could feel drops of, and I forget, it's been so many years since I read about it, but what they've called that elixir of life that comes from the pineal when it's activated and stimulated. And so the still point is key in the process.
Oh, okay. We'll see.
The breath. The breath is it.
A gift that you kind of earned from doing your breathing, and it just spontaneously went there for you.
Yeah, it was like I had the brain cells for it, fortunately, from having read about it years ago, and it was like, oh my goodness, what is this? Oh, wow. And as I could feel this drip happening, like right down in the center of my brain, it was like, how can I explain it?
You're doing great.
It was like I could feel the energy field of it reverberating throughout my skull, particularly, and throughout my structure. Mm-hmm. And that's where, I really touched into the fact, the people generally think when the baby's soft spot is hardened that the head is fixed, but actually it's in continuous motion. And I could, after that happened, as, it was like, as that, I think it's been called nectar, dropped in through from the center of my brain. It was like an energy field just reverberated through, and I could literally feel each bone of my cranium, each in its independent motion. And, my work from years ago as a naturopath had me come up with the thesis that the bony structure of the head, the spine, and the pelvis are literally the antenna for the body. And nothing is fixed, it's in continuous motion. It's a continuously self-adjusting antenna. And when you realize that an antenna, the shape of an antenna determines the frequencies it receives, as I could feel the bones moving, I could feel the whole energetic pattern of my physiology shifting.
Wow. And doesn't that feel extra great when it's
a little louder, Dusty?
I said, that must have been a wonderful feeling that it was so visceral. I mean, you really could feel it, right?
It was awesome. It was past awesome. Yeah.
Well, I love hearing
joy
that
would be a weak word for it.
Wow.
And physiologically, if I think about the word in the Aramaic scriptures where the Greeks translate Yeshua saying, my peace I give to you, my peace I leave with you, in Aramaic what it actually says is serenity. And when I tap into that, that would be the most appropriate word that would describe for me what was going on for me in my physiology. It was physiological serenity that I experienced out of that. And since that, there has been a shift in my physiology I'm very aware of in everything that I'm doing. That's it's a different structure.
Oh, okay. Wow. I guess it always does it anyway, but I'm assuming, but especially when you get to the point that you did, there does seem to be a biochemical compound that comes from that and then just work their magic in other glands and through the body. It was
quite amazing. And it was like, when we talk about Ruka being that feminine force, elemental force that one undoes the effects of ours and teaches us the truth, what I was shown, what I was experiencing in the moments following that was that, in Aramaic, each of the Beatitudes starts out with the word tuvehun. And the Greeks translate that as, in the Aramaic language, the Beatitudes, the Greeks translate as starting out, each of the Beatitudes starts out with, blessed are they, according to the Greeks. In Aramaic, what it actually speaks of is, excuse me a second. Alexa, stop. I must have said something that triggered this thing into action. It started yelling in my ear. Excuse me. In any event, as I was going through this kind of energetic shift and energetic experience, the instruction that came was that I was at another level of achieving what the first word in the Beatitudes reflects, the word tuvehun in Aramaic. And what it says more literally, rather than blessed are they, is that a latent neural structure implanted by the Creator to guide you to happiness and well-being becomes your conscious possession. And the first beatitude it does not say you're supposed to be poor in spirit. In Aramaic, the word poor, translated out of the Aramaic, the word is actually home. And with the Aramaic alphabet, a fly speck on a piece of paper in the right place around the word home changes the word to poor. It's one of the ways we know the Aramaic was primary. The Greeks came from the Aramaic. Greek scholars say, oh, no, it was all written in Aramaic first, and then they translated it into Greek, or into Aramaic. I mean, that's just crazy. So the invitation is those whose home, rather than being in the intellect or in the world of sensation, those whose home is in the eternal forces from the Creator. And the instruction I got at that point was right down to where these literal elemental forces, when they move in us, I could feel the movement of the bones of my cranium, of my skull, and I could feel that was a prompting from those energetic forces, and that's what they were talking about, that our home had to be in those energetic forces. It was just like another level, another layer of it opened for me, just so profoundly, so sweetly. It was awesome.
Oh, that's really beautiful, and I like the way that you said one of the phrases that you went through as you described in Aramaic sounded like poetry to me. I mean, it was just that beautiful. Wow.
It's powerful.
I'm just reminded that it's sort of an analogous. I find that I've had a whole lot of really amazing experiences with and in nature that most people don't even get close to, and the reason that me or anybody that does put themselves out there in nature, whether it's the ocean or mountains or the desert or what it's
right.
And something extraordinary will happen. You'll see, something in nature, a giant eagle will pop of your head or something to that effect,
Yeah.
And it sounds to me like what you were doing with the meditation, where if you do things like you were doing, and I try to do, every now and then there's this blessing, an extra piece of grace or whatever you want to call it. It's just you were there, Michael.
It's like a little signal that says, you're on the right track here.
Yeah, that's it.
That's it exactly. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Wow. Well, that's very uplifting for me, and I'm very glad to hear it.
And just to tap in, and what you resonate for me as you say that, when I'm thinking about the Beatitudes, and I'm actually prepping to do more work with the Beatitudes on the show. But
okay.
one of the other Beatitudes the Greeks say to us, and you just triggered this thought, one of the Beatitudes, according to the Greeks, said, "Blessed are they who are the peacemakers, for theirs is the kingdom of God." That's the Greek translation. Mm-hmm. In Aramaic, what it says is, a latent neural structure implanted by the Creator to guide you to happiness and well-being becomes your conscious possession, you who work effectively to produce the peace and understanding in accord with the will of the Creator, for you shall be called the offspring of God.
Wow. Wow, that's powerful.
And it's like in Aramaic, in Yeshua's words in the Beatitudes, it's like there's a requirement here, and that is you need to effectively work to produce this peace and this serenity, this in the world, in order to get into that category where you're actually in that deeper relationship with the Creator. And the one before actually talks about comprehending the Creator, like the whole new level of comprehension, not an intellectual idea, but an energetic comprehension of what this, beyond what the intellect could possibly figure out.
So that Aramaic word points to or makes reference to the equivalent of neural circuits.
Yes.
Is that right?
Yeah, the first part of it's a three-part word in front of each of the Beatitudes, and it's tuvehun. And the word tuv, that's how it becomes the Beatitude. Say again?
I just wanted to hear you say it, but you're explaining it. Sorry. Go ahead.
Oh, tuvehun. Touveehon. It's a three-part word. Tuv is an attitude of mind. That's how it became the Beatitudes, Tuv. A speaks of the fact that is, in most people, that Tuv that was implanted to guide us to happiness and well-being is unconscious. It's been layered over with the hostility, the fear, the rage, the guilt, the self-deprecation, the trauma of the world, so it's now unconscious. And then the third part of the word speaks of that literally becoming your conscious possession. That Tuv, that neural structure, literally in Aramaic, neural structure implanted to guide us becomes, it comes to the point where it becomes conscious rather than it being buried in the unconscious by all the drama and trauma of the world. And, it's like the requirement is you got to do your work.
Right. What's that syllable again? I missed it, the last syllable. The word
Houn. So Touv Touveehon, tuvehun. If you go, and Jeanie, seeing as how we're having this conversation, has probably already gotten the link and put it in the notes, or maybe even emailed it to you. But you can go to the to whyagain.org and click in the upper left-hand corner, start here, go down to the other worksheet section, and you'll find a copy of the Beatitudes poster. And it gives the whole translation.
Great.
So anybody who's listening who wants to get into that deeper, I'm planning to spend more time on that over the next week or so, maybe longer, depending how it stretches out and what kind of conversations ensue. So if you want to download that poster, you can download it free and print it off, so you've got a copy of it. It's powerful. I went through way back. This goes back, and I can remember sitting in my office at Heartland probably 32 or 33 years ago, and doing longhand, going back to the Aramaic dictionary and doing longhand of this, which, I had been taught from childhood, my early religious education, all that. The Beatitudes were, kind of this nice philosophy.
Right.
And it was the second time that I wrote them out all longhand from the dictionary. They went, oh, my God, this isn't a philosophy. This is a set of instructions. This is how to. You know, the Greeks say, blessed are they who are poor in spirit, for theirs is the kingdom of God. I mean, it's bizarre. But when you get to the Aramaic, it's like, here's an instruction set. Here's how to produce that result. You know, it's just like, you know, the Lord's what people call the Lord's Prayer. The Lord's Prayer isn't a prayer. It's a set of instructions. But that's been lost. It's like, you know, you listen to Yeshua and he says, do not repeat and repeat like the pagans do. Don't stand in the corner and put it out there so that you'll be noticed, because you've already gotten your reward. The game is over. He said, go into the closet, close the door, go into the silence. The most powerful way I know to go into that closet is through the still point breath. Go into the closet, close the door, and then will come the reward. And then he gives in the Lord's Prayer, and there's actually, I think the one of my presentations on Lord's Prayer is actually on the home page. Jeanie, you could correct me if I'm in error, on the website. But we go through the fact that, you know, this man wasn't giving a dissertation on something you should say every Sunday at church. Our Father art in heaven, hallowed be thy name, you know, blast through. It's like, no. They asked him, you know, how do we get there? How do we even, you know, obviously there was a whole lot of confusion about the word prayer back that long, because it said, how do we do it? And he didn't do it. He didn't, you know, I use the example of, you know, imagine I'm a voice coach and you say, Michael, teach me to sing. And I say, I sing you a song. Would I be teaching you to sing? No. I mean, you might learn something about singing if I sang you a song, but I wouldn't be teaching you to sing. If I were going to teach you to sing, I'd talk to you about breathing, and I'd talk to you about the diaphragm, and I'd talk to you about the mouth and the tongue, and all. I'd be teaching you to sing. In the same way, they said, yeah, teach us to pray. He doesn't say a prayer. It's not a prayer at all. It's a set of instructions. Okay, here's how you do it. That's also on the website, but, you know, that it all gets turned backward. When, you know, Yeshua sit in most centers of influence that supposedly or purportedly put his work out, and he'd say, it's all Greek to me.
Right.
Because it is.
Oh.
I mean, it's mumbo jumbo.
Yeah, they were pretty, and they had some biases going as well, and I can't tell you how refreshing it is for me to hear when you talk about that part of the world from the Aramaic, because for instance, I was an acolyte in a high Episcopal church, an older boy from Santa out of high school. In fact, I was the only one.
Right.
So listen. You know, they say the Father, the Son, and the Holy Ghost. They say all these things, and my little voice inside would go, yeah, kind of, no, that's not it. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? There was an intuition.
Right.
It's like, if I heard the truth, I'd know it. And rarely did I really hear the truth being spoken, literally, you know.
Yeah, I'm with you.
So this is very, I don't know, it's a certain kind of revelation for me to know that everything that came from Abraham or that whole part of the world, there really was almost like Sanskrit, you know. The words meant something real.
Yep.
And
exactly.
So I appreciate
and there's no accident that at least 5 of the world's major religions come out of the Aramaic language. It's no accident.
Oh, that's right. Yeah. Whoops.
And they're not, and in its origins, it's not religious. It's just, okay, here's how the energy system works. And men went, whoa, we can take that. We can make money on that. We can turn that into a religion. We can turn it into a belief system. And we can even tell people, hey, you know, you can forget about all those instructions. You're helpless and hopeless. You can't do anything anyway. Just say, I believe. Totally subvert everything the man taught. about how to live as a human being.
Oh yeah, it's sort of like they keep drilling into you. Just have faith, rather than here's how you do it.
Yeah, exactly.
I need the instruction manual myself. Anyway, thanks a lot, Michael, for that. I appreciate it. And if Jeanie, you did send me something, or regardless, thank you too.
I did send it.
Oh, great. Okay, I appreciate it.
Sweet. Awesome.
Okay,
Somebody
folks,
wants to. Yeah, cool. Thank you for the thoughts and the questions, Dusty. Always appreciate the conversation with you. Appreciate the work you're doing and have done over the years, and how it enlarges and moves things forward. Glad to be on the team, and certainly glad to have you on ours.
Right. Just and one last little quote. I think it was Dylan that said that which isn't busy being born is busy dying. So
there you go.
So let's keep being born, folks, and much love to you.
Well, when you say that, another Aramaic concept in here, when they talked about the kingdom of heaven, that word heaven can be properly translated as expansion, which ties right into being born. Yeah, it's expansion. It's like we're not finished yet. We're in process. It's an ongoing process. And if people lose the impetus, lose the inspiration to move to that ongoing process, then they begin to die. So he's right on there.
Oh yeah, and it's a funny thing, and it's kind of been weirding me out just a little bit recently. I've got 2 or 3 very dear friends, guys who are they're beautiful people, but they've already given themselves that I'm old now.
Oh yeah.
They're not being that thing about Picasso that said youth has no age. Well,
right.
They're not young anymore. They're not really, and I've tried so hard without pushing to get them to breathe or whatever. And people don't want to get out of their comfort zones, many. And those that do, the rewards are amazing, I believe.
Absolutely. I'm with you 100%. I mean, we are here to eternally expand our horizons. When you start thinking about the way the human mind works, the Harvard research that says that in a time frame where 10,000 brain cells are firing, the max amount of data that goes into perception is 9 bits. And then you realize that the actuality and the point where we're seeing literally the impact or the result of perceptual construct based in the firing of a max of 9 bits of information in the mind, that it's been estimated in that time frame, which is about a 25th of a second, in the actuality there are approximately 20 trillion bits of data available. There's a lot of expansion to do. We're going to move from 9 bits to 20 trillion. And people who give it up and go, oh, well, I guess I'm finished now. I've gotten old. I'm past my prime. I'm just like, well, if you choose to do that, I guess you can do it. And, yeah, the people who do that will die because if you're not being born, you're dying. I mean, that's brilliant. I hadn't heard that before from Dylan, but didn't realize that was one of his songs, one of his lines. But so I join you and continue it. I mean, for eternity, being born. Yay.
Right, and I figure another 100, 200 years, I might actually figure it out. I don't know. I'll keep trying.
Well, if you would, remember now the number one pseudo-solution to the non-being mind is trying to figure it out. Can't figure it out. We got to do it.
Well,
and
right. Exactly.
I'm going to invite you to put on your calendar now. Get your pen out and put on your calendar.
Okay.
December 31st, the year 4949. We have a New Year's Eve party planned at Heartland. So pop that on your calendar, plan to attend, and we'll look forward to playing with you and all the time in between.
I'll sashay right on in.
All right, friend. Blessings. Everybody,
much.
thank you. We're down to the last few seconds. Have the best year yet of your eternal life. It's an awesome gift to give the world. Blessings. Bye-bye.
I choose to live more consciously, evolving continuously.
Thank you for listening to Mindshifters Radio with Dr. Michael Ryce and myself, Jeanie Ryce, and Dr. Tim Hayes and Michelle Pichet, as we present the first century Aramaic internal process of forgiveness. We are here for 2 hours every Monday through Friday from 12 noon to 2 o'clock Eastern Time on Mindshifters Radio. For more information on Aramaic forgiveness, please visit www.whyagain.org. That's www.whyagain.org.